IMPACT Melanoma is a national nonprofit organization dedicated to working to reduce the incidence of melanoma. We provide education, prevention, and support. I'm going to start out today by reviewing some of our support programs, and later in the session, I'll be joined by Emily Herzberg and Maureen Febiger. Emily is a melanoma survivor and a Billy's Buddies volunteer, and Maureen is also a melanoma survivor and a support group participant. They'll be joining me to talk about their experiences with our support services. Throughout the session today, please feel free to send in any live questions in the comments, or at the end of the program, we will provide contact information on how to access our support programming. All of our support programs are offered free to anyone with a melanoma diagnosis. We currently have 7 ongoing support groups. We have groups offered in Beverly, Massachusetts, Norwell, Massachusetts, Worcester, Massachusetts, and at Yale in Connecticut. Pre-pandemic, these groups had been meeting in person, but due to COVID, we've been meeting virtually for the last year. In addition, we have a newly formed group for residents of Vermont, thanks to a generous grant from the Vermont Department of Health. And we have a telephonic patient group and a telephonic caregivers group available nationwide. In addition to our groups, we have our Billy's Buddies program. Billy's Buddies is a peer support program where an IMPACT trains volunteer buddies to provide peer support to patients newly diagnosed with melanoma or those with recurrent disease. Most connections are made by phone and sometimes email. The program works with the patient to determine what feels most important in a connection. For example, stage of melanoma diagnosis, age of the patient, or similar treatment. Some connections are ongoing and relatively frequent, while others may be less so, depending on the patient's needs. Billy's Buddies was started by IMPACT board member Amy Walls, whose late husband Bill Walls died of melanoma. While undergoing treatment, Bill had so much support from family and friends, he expressed his wish of others affected by melanoma to always have a buddy. I'd like to now welcome Emily and Maureen and have them introduce themselves. Thank you both so much for joining us today. Emily, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, so my name is Emily Herzberg. As Kelly said, I'm a melanoma survivor. I was diagnosed with melanoma 3 years ago. And for about the last year or so, I've been volunteering with the Billy's Buddies program.
Thank you. Maureen, could you introduce yourself as well?
Sure. My name is Maureen Febiger, and I was diagnosed with melanoma 2 years ago, and actually a second time 3 months after that. And I found out about the support group, and I've been a member of the support group.
Well, we're delighted to have you here to share your story. Thank you so much. Maureen, can you talk a little bit about why you initially decided to join a support group?
Sure. When I was diagnosed, it was, you get that word from your nurse practitioner, well, it's not basal, but it's melanoma. And I was like, whoa, that sounds pretty serious. So then you start Googling and this and that. So anyway, I had very good care, like very quick treatment, surgery. And that worked out really well. And I was going to go on a huge, like a lifetime trip. And the surgeon said, when are you going? And I said, like in 2 weeks. He said, go, and then as soon as you get back, we'll operate. It was on my leg, and so that was good. So then, to be honest, it would have been nice if I had known about the support group at that point, because I didn't know what to expect. I mean, first of all, you think of like, well, am I going to die? Am I going to, am I going to be around for Christmas? And then you think of like, well, this is really inconvenient because like I really like to go swimming in the summer. So you start going back and forth. So I thought the support group, when I found out about it, I thought would be very helpful because, after I got through the initial stages of being able to, get around, I wanted to know how I navigate this new world because of sun and being careful of the sun. Because what do? I like kayaking, I like golfing, I like biking, I like going to the beach, swimming. I love all those activities, and I was really wondering how somebody with melanoma, how they've handled that. So that was a really big impetus for me to want to come to join a support group.
And I think you make such a good point, Maureen, that the support group certainly is there for emotional support, for a safe place to put all of that you're feeling, but also practical support about like how did you navigate the sun and what did you do to keep yourself safe and still to continue the things that you enjoy. So I think it's, you know, the power of a support group is sort of twofold in that way. Thank you. Emily, can you share a little bit about why you decided to volunteer for Billy's Buddies and how you heard of the program?
Yeah, so when I was diagnosed 3 years ago, unfortunately, I actually didn't know about impact melanoma back then. And I think, you know, thinking back 3 years ago, gosh, I would have benefited so much from having someone to talk to who really understood what I was going through. And at that point, you know, I had a really supportive family and my friends were incredibly supportive, but it was difficult to talk about. And I found that people just kind of didn't understand the struggles. And so even though everybody was really supportive, I didn't feel like I had that buddy, that person who was kind of going to help me answer those questions and figure out kind of how to move forward. And so when I finally did hear about impact melanoma and had the opportunity to research the Billy's Buddies program, I really wanted to be able to be that person, that buddy for other people, to have those questions answered, to be able to have some understanding of what things look like in a year, 2 years, 3 years. And obviously everybody's experience is a little bit different, but just having somebody who could identify, I wish I had had that. And so that was really the major impetus for me to join the Billy's Buddies program.
Well, we're so grateful that you've joined, Emily. I know you've had three buddies so far, and actually you are our first international match. We had someone reach out from Argentina that you were able to connect with. So we're so grateful to have you on our volunteer team. Maureen, can you talk a little about your experience as a support group participant? What's been the biggest thing that you've gained from participating in the group?
Well, I just like knowing that these other people are out there. I think I only went to 1 or maybe 2 in-person visits, but it was really, really helpful because first of all, Kelli is super nice, and that just helped a lot. And then there's a wonderful woman who had been diagnosed and had, you know, some serious issues, you know, and it was just so nice to be able to talk to them. And to be honest, I was saying that it was the first time I cried because it was like I was just holding it in the whole time. It was like, felt like, you know, and I haven't even cried since, but it's like I just felt in that safe space. And that was really big. And then just being able to talk to somebody who's, you know, just to see, like, here are these people, they're, you know, they're living their life. And, you know, I just like knowing these people are out there, and I just feel good about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, like you mentioned, that just the safe space to sort of be able to share however you're feeling and know that it's a safe room and a safe place to be able to do that and to put all of those big feelings that come with a diagnosis.
Right. Because honestly, I mean, I've got nice friends and, you know, good family, but, you know, I think it's pretty limited. I mean, people don't really want to talk about your melanoma. You know, I have to sort of remind people, like, well, you know, sort of being careful of being in the sun. And people don't really like, to be honest, people don't really like that reminder in some ways because I think maybe it's scary to them. So, you know, it's like you say, it's better in that safe area with a support group.
Absolutely. Emily, you've been so helpful to your buddy matches, but has being a volunteer buddy, has it impacted your life as well?
Yeah, definitely. It's so interesting because I feel like a lot of the impacts in my own life are really subconscious. I think I only am kind of starting to recognize how much impact the program has had on me even now. And obviously, you know, every match is a little bit different. So everybody kind of needs a slightly different type of support. So some of my buddies I talk to on a weekly basis, you know, one of my buddies only occasionally. It's, you know, just very dependent on kind of what that individual needs at a given time. And obviously the goal of the program is really to be a support for that individual. But I think I have found that just being there for somebody, you know, being able to share some of the same experiences, it's been so incredibly powerful in my own life. And I think it's allowed me to even process some things that I never really had the opportunity to process in this way when I was first diagnosed. And so in that way, it's, you know, kind of been a somewhat cathartic experience for me as well.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I've heard that from other volunteers as well, that they certainly get so much out of the program. And, I think that's just a remarkable, speaks to the program, where both the volunteers and the recipients are both sort of getting a unique experience and both getting a lot out of it. Emily, can you talk about the process of being trained as a volunteer buddy and how the training prepares you for that role?
Yeah, definitely. So I actually, to start, was a little bit nervous about the training and had nothing to be worried about. Kelli's wonderful. She trains all the Billy's Buddies volunteers. It was a very straightforward process. So my training occurred virtually via Zoom, just amidst the COVID-19 pandemic. But it sounds like historically some of the trainings have happened in person. It was a couple of hours long, and it was really, it was nice to be with, other new volunteers, to kind of get to hear each other's stories. It was pretty informal in that way, which I really appreciated. And I think it really kind of prepared me for some of the common threads that are experienced by volunteers as they kind of meet their new buddies. So we discussed, the importance of confidentiality and how to, be a good and an active listener. How to establish boundaries with a buddy, and just kind of, what the process of being a buddy looks like. And I think those things really helped me to be successful, especially in those first couple of meetings with the buddies that I've had so far.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing. Maureen, can you offer any advice to someone who might be considering joining a support group, but maybe has some hesitation to that?
Sure, just try it, because it's just so nice. You don't have to share anything you don't want to. Nobody's going to pry into your business. I think I'm a fairly open person, and so to me it comes more naturally than some people that I know, like in my family, who would feel more reluctant. But you can just come on and listen, or it's not, people aren't sitting. No, I mentioned how I burst up into tears at one time, but I haven't seen that happen since then, and nor have I. I mean, it's not like group therapy. It's support. Yeah. I guess that's the distinction. It's not therapy. It's just like we're just there, and sometimes we'll be somebody will be talking about their pet, because that's like something important to them, and somebody else will be talking about their grandchildren. And like, well, how are you doing this and that? And then with COVID, how are you navigating your life? So it's just, it can be as whatever level you want it to be, but just try it, and you might find that it's helpful.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Question for both of you. Looking back at your own journey since your melanoma diagnosis and all you've learned, what's something that you might like to share with patients any patients who are newly diagnosed? Maureen, maybe you can answer first.
Well, I think they always say don't Google it. I mean, everybody wants to go online. Get the facts. Take somebody that you trust with you. When you're getting when you're talking to your doctors, and get the facts. Find out what's the size and what's the depth, and find out all of that. Get the best information that you can, and then you know what you're dealing with. And don't go Googling stuff on the internet. So the other thing is, like, look for somebody who's going to, be there with you. I've got a nice husband, so he's like with me through the whole thing. And then just, like around here, we have such good care. So trust your doctors. I mean, I've had these fabulous doctors. And so, get the information, and then realize, and then I don't know about the police buddies because I wasn't part of that, but just assume the best, not the worst, and that can go a long way too. So, I mean, I'm 2 years out, and like this morning, I've got this shirt on because it's an SPF. It's Coolie Bar. It's the name of the company, SPF shirt, and I've got like SPF, and I have my Lot 50 hat on today, and tomorrow I'll be biking with my long sleeve top. So, live your life.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Maureen. How about for you, Emily? Anything that would be helpful for patients to know who are newly diagnosed?
Yeah, I think so many things. I think for me, just kind of recognizing the fact that, melanoma is a really different type of cancer diagnosis. And I think it's important in that it affects a lot of young people in a way that many other cancers don't. And I remember going for my first appointment after my diagnosis. And I actually was alone for this appointment, and just like walking into the waiting room, and just nobody looked like me that day. And that was really, it was really sad. It made me just so scared and nervous and upset about what was going on. And I wish that I could go back knowing what I know now, and having, being 3 years out, and tell that version of myself that it is going to get better. And I think for me, kind of, learning to live with melanoma, is something that is always going to be a part of my life, and, in the back of my mind has been super, super important. But I think just to remind people, just keep putting one foot in front of the other, and get to the next day and the next day and the next day for as many days as there are. And it's possible to find enjoyment in life and in a lot of the things that I enjoyed back when I was diagnosed, and I still enjoy. So just keep moving forward.
Thank you. Thank you, Emily. Looks like we had a couple questions come in. One was, how do you decide on buddy matching? So I can speak to that. We really try to do with what the patient wants. So a patient initially fills out an application to request a buddy. And on that, there's an opportunity for patients to put some requests about what they're looking for in a match. So it's really patient-centered in that way. And then I have a conversation to sort of talk more about that. So it can be really anything from the stage of diagnosis or similar treatment history or family makeup. It really depends on what the patient wants. And then we do our best to try to match, to match the most closely with that. Maureen, question for both of you. Maureen, maybe you can answer first. What are some things that have helped you cope along your journey, and how have you found support?
Well, I suppose with most people, you start with the people closest to you. So I've got a very supportive husband. That's good. I've got grown daughters, and my sister and brother. And my sister actually had gone through a non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. So 15 years ago. So she's been through the ringer for the stem cell transplant. So look for the support from the people close to you, and then just realize you want to go live your life, and just take, like I guess Emily said, day by day. Just realize how you've got today. Don't worry about tomorrow or the next day. You worry, but so just enjoy everything you have right now. And I was just going to say, the other thing, like just a technical thing, I go to a melanoma specialist. She's near it's quite handy to where I live. And she's offered something called mole mapping. So I really like that, because I've got all kinds of, spots all over me, freckles, and so you stand in front of a screen and they take pictures of every part of you. And then when I go in for my check, like I was on a 3-month checkup, she can say, look at this, little spot here, and say, oh, that's exactly the same as, 3 months ago. So I just put in a word for that. You have to pay, I think it's $300, but that's the best $300 you'll spend. So I just put in a word for that. And the other thing is I also got a lot out of the, there was a gala that I went to, an IMPACT Melanoma gala. And I said that I had, it was a Roaring 20s theme. So I got this dress with, I had a dress from a wedding I went to. So anyway, it was all, it's kind of like a halter neck bear. So I had the big scar here, which I didn't mind showing. And I had a big scar on my leg. Both of those are gotten much better. And I didn't mind showing it. I was like, well, okay, I can do that. And then there was one of the slogans, Lacey, her husband's the Surgeon General, she spoke. And like one of the things that really hit me is she said, like, love the skin you're in. And so she's a big advocate of that. So, I mean, she's very pale, and I tend to be pale. And the whole idea, okay, it's like all vanity. Like, when I'd like to be tan because I think I look better, and it covers up some of the, the veins and the wrinkles. And, people just think like, oh, you look better if you're tan. But I realized, okay, that's not going to be happening. And so just that watchword of love the skinny rings. Like, okay, you know, I've got to accept that, and I'm not going to have, you know, the beautiful tan legs. I don't mean that my legs are beautiful, but the beautiful tan. So just kind of coming to grips with the reality, and then like, okay, so maybe I'll just wear leggings. You just adapt.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for sharing so much of your story and what's been helpful. How about for you, Emily? Is there anything that has really helped you cope along the way? How have you found support?
Yeah, I think a lot of the same things that Maureen just commented on. I think for me, having, you know, I happen to be lucky in that I have a really supportive family and also just a great support network of friends. And I actually brought a couple of friends when I was first diagnosed, and they were kind of with me the entire experience. My husband has been incredibly supportive as well. So I think that was kind of, you know, as I was first being diagnosed, huge for me. And then I think kind of moving forward, it's been so important to kind of try to establish some element of normalcy in a world that doesn't feel as normal as it did before I was diagnosed with melanoma. And part of that has been finding ways to engage in all of those things that I love that do put me more at risk. So in particular, things involving the sun, and just getting creative about how to do those things, but keeping those things in my life because they meant so much to me before melanoma. And they still mean a lot to me now. Both of those things have really been helpful for me the last couple of years.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We have a comment and a question from Diane Hall Wilson, who told a little bit about her her husband's story with melanoma, and she asked that she's interested in volunteering. So for anyone who's interested in volunteering, please, we are happy to reach out to you and talk with you about opportunities, either within Billy's Buddies or other volunteer opportunities within Impact. We love our volunteers, and it's a huge part of our organization. So we'd be thrilled to talk with anyone about if they're interested in volunteering. So definitely we'd be happy to reach out about that. And then we have another question about how can I tell my friends about the program? So we are actually going to put up our website here in a minute that shows you on impactmelanoma.org, there's a specific tab that talks about our support services, both our Billy's Buddies program and our support groups. So that's a great resource for patients and caregivers to know more about our support services. And certainly we appreciate any time that folks can tell their providers about our services, anytime that, you know, we certainly want to get the word out so that patients, you know, learn early on in their diagnosis about our support services, because we really, ideally, we love it to be sort of part of the package, right? So here's your treatment plan. And then in addition to that, here's where you can get some support for yourself and your family. So that is a good place to start. Maureen and Emily, thank you so much for your time today. We're so thrilled that you were able to join us today. And again, for more information about Impact Melanoma, please visit our website, and there you will also find our contact information. Thank you so much.